All right, class. First off, it's always a good day. I'm glad you're here. So today we're going to be starting off the amendments. Okay, we're going to go over a handful at a time. We're going to chunk it a little bit because these amendments are the ones I truly feel that you need to know for the rest of your life. I've said at the very beginning of the school year. I'll continue to say it. You need to know your rights as citizens because I hate to say it, but not everything you see on TikTok when they go over your rights are real. Something people say are fake, and they must have heard this from someone else or somebody told them. Because a lot of stuff I've heard on TikTok, a lot of stuff is fake, especially when it comes to the authorities, what cops can and cannot do, and things like that. What you say and cannot say, you know, that's one of the bigger ones. So that's why I'm really gonna take my time on certain amendments and explain them thoroughly. And this is something if we did in class that I really go over, and I want to make sure that you understand completely. Sad thing is, because this is a video, I can't hear your questions. So if you do have any of them, if you still have my email address, you can email me. If I will be back in class soon, and you can ask me then. Just write it down on a piece of paper or on your folder or something, and let me know. Okay, because this is again one of those things I really, really want you to know like the back of your hand. Okay, because again, as long as you live in this country, these are your rights. Okay, so the objective today, we're going to analyze the importance of the First Amendment, which is pretty big, which is pretty interesting. We're going to examine the true meaning of the Second Amendment. Okay, I'm sure a lot of people, especially the people who are really into guns, they swear, "Oh, I know the Second Amendment," but they only know about half of it. Okay, we're going to create an argument on when should a joke not be protected by the First Amendment. We're actually talking about that. Okay, so here's your warm up picture. So, if you remember from politics, which political group was the donkey, which one was the elephant, there you go. Okay, so that should tell you which group, who's who. The main question I'm asking you is this: what is this artist trying to say about the Bill of Rights? So look at this picture, look what the donkey, look what the elephant have. That's the reasoning for it. So what is this artist trying to say? Okay, and eventually what's going to happen to the Bill of Rights? Okay, so think about it, write your response because we're moving on in three, two, one. All right. So in total, we have 27 amendments to the Constitution as of today. Um, are we going to go over all 27? Not really, because again, these amendments that we're going to be talking about in class are about the ones that pertain to you, the ones that actually affect your everyday life, you know, type of thing. There's some of them, unless you're going to be a congressman, do you really need to know about when they're going to get paid? Probably not. Okay. So that's we won't go over all 27, but we are going to go over several of them. The Bill of Rights, that is known as the first 10 amendments. That's what they're called. Okay. Because when our country was created, the anti federalists wanted something on paper saying we want our rights on paper, saying this is what it is, that the government cannot take away from us. And those were the first 10. Okay. And this is the ones we're going to be spending this week and next week on. Possibly another fourth day. We'll see. Okay. But the First Amendment is by far one of the more important ones. Okay. The First Amendment says this, and you can follow along right there. Congress shall make no laws respecting establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievance. Now, believe it or not, there's a lot of rights in that little paragraph right there. But the number one thing that popped off, Congress can't make any law saying no, this religion's not valid. Okay, so when people say, "Oh, this is a Christian country," no, it's not, because this country accepts all religions. It doesn't matter if you're Muslim, Buddhist, Hindu, it doesn't matter. We accept all religions. Now, with that being said, are all religions, accepted by the government? Not necessarily, believe it or not. As long as there's no like human sacrifice, things like that, then that is not protected by our government. That's basically the only thing where it's like, as long as people are not getting hurt by the religion, where it says, hey, we gotta kill, on a person every full moon, then no, okay, that's not protected by our constitution. But basically anything else, so if you want to start a religion praising Family Guy, sure, yeah, you can do that. Okay. The next one is freedom of speech. Now this one's a little tricky. Okay, but I'm gonna speak more of this later on. But you do not have total freedom of speech. Okay, this is a big one I see on TikTok and things like that, where people say, "Oh, you could talk to cops and you can say anything you want to them. Or to a federal judge, you can say anything you want to them. They can't do anything." Yes, they can. Yes, they can. Um, you do not have total freedom of speech. Okay, so again, we'll get to this in a little bit because it needs more explanation. The next one, freedom of press. The government can't tell the press, you have to print this stuff, you have to print that, you can't print this, you can't print that. Um, the press can write stuff down. Now, their credibility is the thing that's at risk. So if a news organization, whether it's a newspaper or on TV, says a bunch of lies, and it's proven they're liars, they're liars, they're liars, um, this is where people stop listening to them. It becomes basically like yellow journalism. Uh, it's the type of thing where people are like, yeah, they're a bunch of liars. It's like reading the tabloids. You see like, oh, so and so was an alien, and you kind of just like look at it, grin, and go, yeah, whatever. That's the kind of thing that happens to newspapers and news organizations that constantly come up with fake um, things when the truth is exposed. That, hey, these guys are liars. Okay, so but the press does have the right to say some things. Okay, not all kind, not everything, but they do have the right to say some things. Now, this is another big one too that happened. I saw during the COVID years. The right of the people peacefully to assemble. Now, if you are marching and you're with the picket sign and some of that, you know, saying things, you don't agree to this, you believe in this, that's fine. But when people start looting, destroying property, jumping on cars, busting windows, and things like that, that's when it no longer qualifies as a peaceful assemble. It's now seen as a riot. Now, is it fair to those people who are truly believe in the cause and marching and stuff like that? No, it's not fair to them. But the thing is, all it takes is several people to ruin it for everyone. And that's why some cops, they'll come out and then they'll start using the water guns, tear gas, and things like that, because they don't know how many of those people are in that group. And it sucks. Like I say, it does suck for the people who truly believe in the cause, who are truly marching because that's what they truly, it's in their heart and souls. But again, all it takes is some idiots to ruin it for everyone. The next part of it says the petition the government over just a grievance. So here's the thing: if you don't like the way the government's doing things, you have the right to say, I don't think you're doing it right. I think you suck. Mr. Congressman, you are the worst congressman in the world. Mr. President, I don't like you. You have the right to say that without being arrested. Okay? If you don't like the way the government is doing certain things, you have the right to say, I don't like this. You know, again, as long as it's not violent, you're good. Okay? But when it becomes violent, that's where there's the issue. Now, going back to the freedom of speech. Again, you do not have total freedom of speech. There's a really big court case, Schneck versus the United States, in which this guy Schneck tried to stop people from being drafted from into World War One. He was saying, passing out leaflets and things like that, and he was saying, "Hey, the government's trying to stop me. That's infringing on my First Amendment rights." But the things he was saying on there was, from my understanding, kind of like borderline, threatening and things like that. And so the court case, or the court basically says that he created a clear and present danger. And anytime you present any type of clear and present danger when there is none, your freedom of speech is not protected by the First Amendment. So, a great example is like at a theater. People are watching movies, things like that. If you run through the theater and start shouting out fire, 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 when there is no fire and people start panicking, people start running for the exits, hurting each other, things like that, you can get in big trouble. That is a federal charge. That's not a state charge. That's not even seen as a prank. That's a federal charge. Because again, you are creating a danger when there is not one. Okay, there is no fire. Okay, so that type of speech is not protected. I hate to say but hate speech is protected by the First Amendment. Now, why is it protected? Because a lot of the hate speech given, it's opinions. If you ever hear these people, they say, I think these people should be going back to their country. I think they should do that. I believe that that's the wording they use. I think, I believe. Those are opinions. They cannot be the same. Now, if they said something like, we're going to make sure every single so and so is sent back to the country, we're going to take them at gunpoint. Now, see, now that crosses the line. That becomes a threat, which we're going to talk about in a second, you know, because they have the ability to have guns and things like that. So if they're saying they're going to do that, go to people's houses, that can be seen as a threat. And that no longer protected by the First Amendment. Okay. Now, like I said, things like slander, sedition, true threats, fighting words, copyright, those are not protected by the First Amendment. Okay. When you're playing games on the video on your game and you're on live with other people, I'm sure some of you guys have heard the stories when people say, "Oh, I'm going to go to your house. I'm going to do this to you. I'm going to do this to you. I'm going to do that to you." That can be seen as a threat. I was about to say, "Oh, I'm going to make this bomb. I'm going to do this to you," because now all that information is online. People have access to it. So that doesn't mean just like talk. It's now can be seen as a true threat. Okay. Now, the other thing, slander. Slander is a really big one. Um, it can be basically slander is above a rumor. A rumor is like, hey, I heard so and so did this, I heard this and that, you know. But if someone says, oh, I know, so and so, that chick is a man. Oh, I know, so and so is doing this illegally, you know, and it comes to be false. That's slander. There's a difference between I believe, I heard, I think, to oh, I know this. This is true. And being false. That when it's false, it's slander, and you can get in trouble for that. All right. So for this part, what you're going to do is you're going to look through each one of these. Now, if you notice, the first square doesn't have where it says number, 7. Okay, because I'm going to explain this to you. What you're going to do is you're going to read that part. Okay. So like it says, the one I'm going to do for you guys is that one. Posting, I think Congress is worthless on social media. Does that fall under freedom of speech from what I've taught you? And yes, it does. So what you would do then is just put yes. All right. So number 7 says, well, at the hospital, telling people there's an active shooter, but there isn't one. Now, all you're going to do for number 7 on that line is put yes or no. Is that situation protected by the First Amendment? While at a hospital, you tell people there's an active shooter, but there isn't one. Is that protected by the First Amendment? Yes or no? And you're going to go through the line. Number 8, read that one. Number 9, and basically, again, is that situation protected by the First Amendment? Okay. If you kind of forgot, you don't know, go back a couple minutes on the video and listen to that again. Okay. So go ahead, do that. Pause the video because we're moving on in three, two, one. All right. So the Second Amendment, this is what it says in the Constitution: a well regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Now, in all my years of life, as far back as I can remember, for the past like 30 some years, there's very few people I know who know the whole thing. It just depends on their politics, what they believe. So people who are gun nuts, like some of my friends, they can only tell you the second half of it. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And then those people who feel that, hey, guns are evil, things like that, they tend to look at that first part: a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. But again, you need to look at both of them. Okay. And like I said, the look at the wording of it: a well-regulated militia. Militia is citizen soldiers. Why do we have a militia? Because back when this was written, we didn't have an army. We really didn't have an army, and an army that trained people and things like that. We really didn't have that. Okay. So that's the thing. Now it says being necessary. The militia they're talking about being necessary to the security of a free state. Because again, you have to remember back in the 1790s, we could have been attacked by Britain again, by Spain. Spain had control of Florida and things like that. They felt that, hey, if they wanted to, they could have come through Florida, which is legally theirs, and then attacked us. Same thing with the French. They could have attacked us. So that's what it meant: the security of a free state. The militia is needed. But in order to have a militia, those citizens needed to have guns, and that's why the second part came in. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Okay? Now, that's what it means as a whole. But again, because of people's politics and their true, like their beliefs and their heart and souls, tend to pick one side or the other. And I'm telling you guys right now, you know, whatever you may feel, that's what it says as a whole. That's what the whole amendment says. It's not politically favored one side or the other. Okay. But again, that's why I'm here as a history teacher, to put it into context how it was written, the wording it was written. Okay. Now, with that being said, this is why this amendment is very, very important, because different states have different laws when it comes to guns. Here in California, they are very um, strict on gun laws. Certain um, magazine sizes, different mods, and things like that to them. Um, so that's the kind of thing that they restrict, and they are very on. Okay, but some states like Texas, they don't care. They don't care what you put, on your gun, how you modify it, things like that. There's some of them see like the bigger the gun, the better. Okay, so if you ever do move from California, move to another state, look at the gun laws there. Make sure that if you do have a gun and you take it with you, follow the gun laws. Okay, and see what that state now says about that gun. Okay. Now, the Third Amendment doesn't really pertain to us that much, but it's still kind of important to know because who knows, this actually could happen again. All right. The Third Amendment says no soldier shall in time of peace be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. Back in the day, from the 17th century back, it was common for a king or lord or whoever to say, "Hey, this is your house. Well, these group of enemy soldiers are coming over. We're gonna have these soldiers stay in your house. Make sure you feed them. Make sure they're taken care of. They have a bed to stay in. Okay. And it became your responsibility to take care of that soldier. Okay. We don't have that problem now because we have military bases, we have, barracks and things like that. But back then, it was a big problem. But this also goes to a lot of laws nowadays. Whereas if something was trying to be done, you know, it needs the consent of the owner, whomever that may be, whether you're the owner of this or that, especially when it comes to houses. As long as the owner gives consent, it's all good. Okay. And we'll talk about more of this, especially when it comes to the fourth, amendment, Fifth Amendment. Um, we'll be talking about that. Okay. All right. So here's my question for you. Where do you draw the line on freedom of speech when it comes to jokes? Okay. When does a joke cross the line for you? When you go, hey, this is funny, this is funny. Okay, now you're being, um, that's hurtful. That's things like that. That's crossing the line. Where is that line for you? Now, here's the thing: not everyone's gonna have the same line. Okay, and that's the thing too. I don't want to see the same answers on everyone else's, things like that. Where do you draw the line when it comes to a joke? Some people are really way over here where, I mean, talk about farts. It's basically like, no, you can't make a joke about that. But some people, hey, if you can make fun of dead people, you know, that's okay. But talking about you know, um, like a handicapped person, that's crossing the line, you know. So everyone has a line when it comes to joke. Where is your line, and why do you say that's the line? You go past that, you are crossing the line. Before it, that's cool. So why do you say that is the line? That's where you shouldn't joke anymore about this other stuff over here. Okay, so be sure you explain why. Okay, once you're done with this, you are done with this lesson. Um, So hopefully you learned something new. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Okay. Um, so make sure you guys finish your vocab. I'm going to have a worksheet for you guys to do about presidents and another one on these court cases, for the amendments. So just be prepared for those. Okay. They're not gonna be big. They're gonna be pretty short, but be sure you get those done. Okay. So you guys, you take care. You be safe. I'll see you guys later. Okay.